Aloha! I'm Deborah Davis, and I'm here on the big island of Hawaii, and I'm with Jaden Fox, who is a teacher, a wizard, a shaman, a psychic. He's a consciousness activator, he's a consciousness facilitator, and a transformational life coach. And we're here to talk about walk-ins.
Yay.
So, yeah, I'm excited and interested in learning more. So, what can you start telling us?
A walk-in is, well, the normal way that people come into bodies is what we kind of call a crawl-in or a born-in. You go from the other side, whatever that is, and you incarnate into the body. So what happens is, with the acceleration of energies on the planet, so many things are being accomplished so much quicker. And beings in a very short period of time are deciding, I'm pretty much wrapped up here. I'm done and I'm ready to leave. And so what they do is they kind of put up a for sale sign above the body energetically, and they alert other beings that they're going to leave the body, but they don't need the body to die. The body's like willing to keep going. And other beings who are in energetic alignment with the path that body has been taking. And it can be kind of broad, but usually it stays fairly consistent. Any being who sees, there's a body that's going to become open soon, because that being, the existing soul, wants to check out, can make an agreement and say, when you check out, I'll move in. And so it's more like a house. It's like different people come and go in the house, and the house stays the same. I used to think it was a rare occurrence until I experienced it personally and had to kind of come to terms with that. And I started to dig into it and tap into my sources of information for, what is going on with this? And what I found is that about 83-85% of people like us, people who are on an awakening path, who are light workers, who are kind of in that realm, go through this experience. It's very common.
So can you describe how you came to know about yourself as being a walk-in, your consciousness around it, and your experience of it?
Yeah. I had this unusual experience during a lightning storm, and I didn't think much of it, but in the years after that, I started noticing obvious changes. I felt compelled to change my name. That which used to be my career, I just felt done with. I just wasn't interested in it anymore, and I just wanted to walk away from that. The relationship that I was in, I didn't understand why I was in that relationship. It was like it just didn't make sense to me anymore, and I walked away from that. Not exactly walked away, but kind of wrapped that up. I moved. My diet started to change. What my hobbies and interests were started to change, and the whole time I'm getting this awareness about, you're a walk-in, and I'm like, no, that's that weird thing that other people do. And so I thought, well, okay, that's just not relevant to me, but it's a cute idea. It's a really cute idea, and it kind of explains why my whole life has changed, but I wasn't willing to acknowledge that. And as I began to work with Access Consciousness, the facilitator who was working with me noticed a tangle in me, and she just said, "Truth, are you a walk-in?" And I was like, yes. And I just felt the truth of that in my being. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I am. Now what do I do with that? And I've actually spent the last 8 months or so untangling that and making sense of, what does that mean? How does that apply? And what I found out about it was it's confusing. It's really, really confusing. So I've had experiences where, for other people, there are sometimes when, and especially in the old days, the old soul just left and the new soul came in. It was like whack. And it usually happened in a car accident, or it happened in a surgery, or it happened in a place of unconsciousness. That being was knocked out by some physical thing. And that created the space for a walk-in to occur. One being left, the other being came in. And it's actually, when I perceive it, it's like the essence of what feeds the soul into the body changes. And there's a different color, there's a different frequency that kind of comes down into the body. So it's like it can be a total, absolute, complete, total change. Yet, in more recent times, it doesn't require that big unconscious dramatic kind of, whoa, my life changed after that car accident or after that situation. It's becoming more subtle, and it's also not black and white. So what I've come to untangle about me is, for 4 years, the previous occupant in this body, whose name was Todd, lived in this body with me. And I was kind of in the background watching. Now, you don't notice any of this. You just feel weird things. It's only in retrospect that you can kind of look back at it and go, that's what was going on. It starts to make sense of what you experienced. But what was happening was Jaden was kind of learning from Todd. So for 4 years, we both shared the body. And at a certain point, as the frequency of our progress kept increasing, it became increasingly uncomfortable for Todd to stay in the body. And we, at a certain point, made this transition where Todd left the body as a permanent occupant, and we call it a primary occupant, in the body, and Jaden totally stepped in to take the place of the body. And then, but again, it's not always simple and straightforward. Todd kept coming back again and hanging out. So Todd would come and visit, which was really weird because my character would change. Because who Jaden is and who Todd was are very different people. Todd had a different way of being in the world than Jaden does. And so when Todd would come hang out in the body, all of a sudden I was behaving differently and going, what is going on? I couldn't understand why I was behaving differently. And what I've come to understand is that what makes it confusing is it's like, if you get it like a pitcher, like a glass pitcher of water, and you think of like me, Jaden, as red food coloring. Okay, so I put some red coloring in that water, and the water turns red. So like, let's say red is my essence, it's my frequency. That's all very simple, but let's say Todd is blue. Now I put blue in that water, and when that gets mixed up, it turns into purple or some other weird color that isn't red and it isn't blue. And that's what it's like being in the body. It's like, it's not Jaden and it's not Todd, it's some weird mishmash of the two of those. And that's actually why I'm doing this with people, because I found that more than anything else, the problem is you don't know who you are. There's this confusion in, who am I? Why am I here? What am I trying to do? Nothing really makes sense. Everything's very confusing. You're not clear on where you're trying to go or what you're trying to do. And that's what I learned from having Todd and Jaden together is, oh, this is really confusing. So that's kind of why I've gotten into this as a focus. I found I can help people to untangle that confusion and assist them in finding the clarity of just the frequency that they are, and just kind of cleaning everything up. So that's the nature of this work now.
Thank you for that explanation and description. So what would you say to people out there who might ask you, well, what's the difference between a walk-in and someone who is just finding their authentic self and just getting to their true nature?
Right. Excellent. The difference in a lot of cases is, one is the process of gaining clarity. It's like you go from being conditioned in the world out there into however you were conditioned, and you slowly step into a clarity of your essence. And what happens in a walk-in is almost the opposite. Like, I had a clarity of essence, or Todd had a clarity of essence, and everything was clear and he knew what he wanted to do, and then Jaden came along and everything started to get muddled and everything started to get confused. And so it's the way you can tell the difference is whether you're getting clearer or whether you're staying tangled or getting more tangled. Because what happens is you have these dramatic life shifts. And a lot of the natural things aren't dramatic. It's like this slow, step-by-step, gradual, beautiful, easy awakening into, they're not all like that, but a lot of them are, into the essence of you, the fullness of you. Often the walk-ins are some big shift and all this upheaval and all this change. It's just an immense amount of change that begins to occur. Another indicator of a walk-in is a feeling of wanting to die, wanting to be off this planet. It's the strongest one that I know of as a really clear indicator, because what happens is the soul that's outgoing, that's leaving, wants to die, but it's not going to take down the body. It's choosing to walk out of the body and allow another being to walk in the body. But what happens is that transition doesn't always occur cleanly. So before the transition, there's often a sense of a wanting to die. That being feels like they want to die. So what I notice with people who are walk-ins that I've worked with, they go through these phases in their life where they have this feeling of, I'm just done here. I'm just really, really done here, and I want to leave here. They typically go through depression, suicidal thoughts or feelings, and that gets worse and worse and worse, and then all of a sudden it just seems like it clears up and they feel a shift. That's when the change has occurred. The wanting to die is the outgoing occupant. However, if a person has that depression and wanting to die going on for a long period of time, what happens is the outgoing doesn't always outgo all the way, and they can get, it's not really stuck, they're almost held in there by the new occupant, but they don't totally leave. And so there's a feeling in the body of, sometimes you feel great and you feel energized and wow, this is really good, and other times you're like, oh, I want to die and I'm hopeless and this just isn't working right and I don't know why I'm still here. And it's this crazy making back and forth when both are still in the body. You kind of experience both of those. Sometimes it's blended together, sometimes it goes back and forth. So it's really confusing. The other thing that's really a strong indicator is when you're on an awakening path, things just keep getting clearer. When you're a walk-in and it hasn't been completed fully, you don't know who you are. You don't know what you want to do. It's like one day you want to do one thing and another day you want to do something totally different. And it's crazy making because it keeps going back and forth, and some days none of it applies, and some days it all just kind of jumbles together and you can't make sense of it. Another indicator is if people find themselves trying to look back at the pieces of their life and trying to make sense of it, trying to put it together, that there's a walk-in thing going on there. Another thing I notice is people who are retelling their story. People tell their stories to release the emotion from them, to get to a point where they're neutral on them so they can let go of the stories. I mean, that's the point. That's the objective anyway for most people. When you have a new walk-in, they're doing the opposite. They're telling the story a lot. Yeah, I used to be this, and I really like doing this. But there's no emotion to it. It's almost like they're trying to convince themselves that that's what they used to, that they're still that. It's strange because there's like no emotion. They're just telling this story. And you're like, why are you telling this story? They're trying to convince themselves that they are that person. It's like they're rehearsing who they used to be so they don't forget it. It's strange because they're trying to get a grasp on who am I, what's going on, and they can't quite grasp that. And the other thing that I found is a really big thing is if you're watching this interview or you're interested in the topic, you're probably a walk-in, because other people just wouldn't care. They'd have no draw to it. It wouldn't be interesting at all. For those people who are walk-ins, it's typically a situation where, well, this is the universe kind of feeding you a little bit of information so you can start to embody this more. What's difficult about the whole process is your mind is a filtering mechanism that's designed to filter all of this stuff out. It doesn't want you to know that these different transitions have occurred. So your mind is trying to hide things from you while you're trying to find things out. So for a lot of people, it's these kinds of interviews and reading about walk-ins and hearing other people talk about it that allows them to start accepting that, okay, there's something else going on here.
So how does one actually know they're a walk-in, Jaden?
It's interesting because, like I said, the mind is doing its best to hide that information from you. So one of the processes that I've come up with to help people to gain access to this information is to get the mind out of the way. So there's a thing that we do to get the mind out of the way. And for some people, it could be just simple meditation or something where you just absolutely get the mind out of the way. And then we then just actually ask the body, because the body's been here and is conscious and is aware. We don't give it credit for that, but it is. And it's witnessed and facilitated all these different transitions, if you did in fact have one of them. And so the way that we do is quite simply is get the mind out of the way and ask truth. And when we stick the word truth in there, it allows you to perceive whether you're manipulating yourself or not. So we ask truth, body, I'm asking my body, truth, body, am I a walk-in? Or truth, body, have there ever been any walk-ins? And you can tell by whatever is there immediately is truth for you. If it comes a little ways after that, then it's your mind kind of getting involved again. So you really don't want to think about it, but you want to ask truth, body, am I a walk-in? And another way of using it is a tool of heavier, lighter, is that which is true for you will feel light. And because it's like in resonance with you, it's in alignment with your essence. That which is heavy is just not yours. It's dissonant. It's out of alignment with your frequency. And so another way you can do it is say, you can ask, body, am I walking? And if that feels light, the answer is yes. If it feels heavy, the answer is no. You could also ask, have I been here? Have I been the soul in this body this entire life? And does that get heavy or does that get light? So you can ask the question from different sides and keep looking at it. But a lot of it is just allowing your mind to begin to let go of the lockdown that it has on the information. And you start to become aware of the transitions and the things that have occurred. And if you look back at your life, like I'm the fifth occupant of this body. I'm number 5, which blew my mind totally. I thought maybe I had 2. After I came to grips with, okay, I'm a walk-in, I sat down, and another process that we do with people is to go down a list of, okay, how many occupants have there been in the body? What age did they come in? What age did they leave? How many are still left in the body? Is there any baggage left behind from any occupants? And then the other thing is, are you plugged into the body? And this is something that just recently we've come to troubleshoot, is walk-ins have occurred and the new being hasn't fully plugged into the body. And so there's not a syncing up that occurs when a soul and a body are in alignment with each other, because they're not, it's like you're not plugged into the electrical outlet of your body. I mean, it sounds kind of strange, but that's the analogy we use for visual. And that allows us to clean up a lot of things by making sure that they're plugged in.